Welcome. NOAA has just released its global climate update for February of 2021. That also includes the coverage of this most recent winter. This is a summary map of the major events during the month. For warm temperatures, we looked at South America, Africa, and Asia, with all of their values in the top 20. We have cool area in North America with the 20th coolest temperature for North America. Both Antarctic and Arctic sea ice were below normal. We have La Nina conditions still present in the southeastern Pacific. And we had our first Category 5 cyclone in 2021 in Southeast Asia. First, let's take a look at global temperatures. February was the 16th warmest February on record, and it's the lowest ranked month for over 6 years. Here's the temperature graph on the right. Globally, as I say, we were the 16th warmest with a temperature of 0.65 degrees centigrade above normal. Land is warming faster, so it's 0.93 degrees centigrade above normal. The oceans were only 0.54 degree above normal, but that was the 9th warmest that we've registered them. The northern hemisphere is 0.84 degrees centigrade, the 14th warmest, and the southern hemisphere is 0.81 degrees centigrade, the 19th warmest. Let's take a look at how temperature is distributed across the globe. You can see there are two very cold areas, one basically being North America and the other one being Siberia and Northern Europe. There are two quite warm areas, that's northeastern Canada and Greenland, and a warm area spanning quite a large area of the globe, stretching from Western Europe all the way across to China. You can see the condition for El Nino is met over here with large area of cold water in the southeastern Pacific. But none of that tells us whether these were records or not. This does. This is the Percentiles Map. And dark blue indicates a record cold, dark red indicates record warm. And you'll see that there are no record cold pixels here. Even in the United States and Siberia, they were much below normal, but they weren't record cold. On the other hand, we have quite a lot of record warm, with 71 pixels. Now that's down from last month by quite a bit, but nonetheless, it's still quite a lot more than zero. So there are our record cold areas from before, and as you can see that they are either below normal or much below normal, but not records. This is my favorite tricks. In here I put the ranking of each month compared with the 141-year record. Now February of 2021 was ranked 16th, which there is no month that's been ranked that low for the last 6 years. So this is quite a departure from what we've seen for the last few years. What about the upper atmosphere in February? The lower troposphere was 0.36 degrees centigrade, the 7th warmest. Now this data is taken from satellites, is not the surface, so this is actually at an average altitude of about 4 kilometers. The mid-troposphere is plus 0.27 degrees centigrade, the 7th warmest also. And then you got to the stratosphere, which is cooling, and that is a drop of 0.5 degrees centigrade and is the 6th coolest. Precipitation maps are also important. You notice we have a large dry area north of the equator in the tropical zone and to mid-latitudes, but above that there's been a lot of extra rain. Let's take a look at the equivalent data, but for the winter period, that is from December of 2020 to February of 2021. It was the 8th warmest winter on record overall. You can see the plot here on the right equivalent to the other ones. Globally, 0.74 degrees centigrade above the average, with land warming significantly more than the oceans by about twice as much. The northern hemisphere was 1.02 degrees centigrade above the average, whereas the southern hemisphere was 0.46, and that's actually quite a bit down the table, with only being 19th warmest. Record temperature map, you can see that there's a large number of record pixels around here, and not so much of the blue. The only real significant blue area is for that El Nino in the Southeast Pacific. And for a change, Siberia seems to be slightly cooler than average. Let's take a look at the cryosphere for February of 2021. Both the Arctic and Antarctic sea ice were well below average. Here's the Arctic sea ice. You can see it was the 7th lowest on record. Here's the Antarctic sea ice, and it was the 11th lowest on record. Now the last couple of months has actually been slightly above average or about average, but now it's obviously dropping back down again. This is the 6th consecutive February with below average ice extent. Well, let's take a look at the changes in the atmosphere for February of 2021. We have, of course, a new record CO2 for February, and we still have La Nina present. Here's the buildup of CO2 over the last few years. And so we've set a new rate now for February of 416.75 parts per million. And that's an increase of 2.41 parts per million, an increase of about 5% over last year. We have La Nina present. You can see this is the plot here. The dark line is below the 0.5 value, which means that's La Nina conditions. The models take it back up into ENSO neutral conditions for most of the rest of the year, except for right at the end, it may drop back into a La Nina. Let's take a look at the US for February of 2021 and its winter climate. It's the 19th coolest February on record. The temperatures will be below average in Texas, but no new records set, interestingly enough. And overall winter was warmer than average. So here's the county by county temperature map, and you can see there's this big area right in the middle of the country, stretching all the way down nearly to the Gulf Coast with much below average temperatures. But note, not record below temperatures. That would have been the dark blue color. Interestingly enough, a lot of the areas in Texas that had the worst of the power outages are not some of those that were in the coolest areas. I suppose somebody can explain that. However, it is interesting to note there are a large number of states that had equivalent cold temperatures, and they didn't suffer the problems that Texas did. So I think these problems for Texas are severely homegrown. Here's the precipitation for that same period. We had very dry weather in the western part of the country, actually basically from the Mississippi westwards, and it was very wet along the eastern seaboard for the month. Winter, again, generally warm on the west coast and in the northern tier states, and cold in the southeast except for Florida. Again, the precipitation follows a similar pattern. Most of the western half of the country was very dry, and the precipitation along the east coast was quite severe. The summary for February is then that La Nina conditions still are in place. This may last until the spring, but then go back to ENSO neutral conditions. It was the 16th warmest February on record. Sea ice below average in both northern and southern hemispheres. And CO2 emissions increasing again to set yet another new record.